Every company on earth has announced an AI strategy. Almost none of them can tell you with a straight face which number in their business is definitely correct. The gap between the ambition and the arithmetic is where this series starts. I'm Devanshu, and this is Moving to Autonomous Enterprise Episode 1, why the road to autonomy runs straight through your data and analytics team, and why almost everybody is trying to skip it. Today, my guest is Ajay Malgaonkar, Chief Delivery Officer at Agivant, where the entire delivery model is built around AI agents working alongside engineers. So he's not just theorizing about this, he's shipping it. So, hi Ajay, how are you doing?
I'm good.
So, Ajay, when people hear about autonomous enterprise, they think it as Skynet, and like half of them think it as smarter Excel macro. So, what's your thought on this?
Well, honestly, it's much more closer to the macro, but that's not a put down. It's very interesting part. Think about the autopilot in aviation, right? That did not remove the pilot.
Right.
It actually elevated them up the level. So instead of now flying the aircraft, they manage the system which flies the aircraft.
True.
The skill did not disappear. It actually became more valuable. Now there is one person who's making a judgmental call rather than doing a stick and rudder work. That's what is happening in the enterprise, and it is happening in the least glamorous corner of the building: reporting, reconciliation, and data pull. It is boring, yet it is enormous. Autonomy in the enterprise doesn't look like a robot. It looks like nobody having to ask that question again.
So, you are telling us the future is just fewer spreadsheets.
Well, for decades, organizations suffered from death by Excel, a state in which business SME pulls out the data from corporate warehouses into a localized spreadsheets to perform manual joins, VLOOKUP, cross lookup, and crafts the bespoke charts. Agentic analytics is basically serves as a cognition and interaction layer on top of your enterprise dataset.
So, Ajay, everyone on the planet is just using this term right now. Strip away the marketing. What does that actually mean?
Well, it's a spectrum, not a switch. Autonomous enterprise is a state in which the organization is maturing towards the following transitions: manual extraction to business intent, retrospective to next based action, data wrangling to decision validations. The modern inflection point centers around the autonomous context, agency, and natural cognition. Honestly speaking, enterprises are somewhere in between.
So, what actually decides how far up you can go?
Two things, and neither of them is model quality. The first one is confidence. It is the difference between the question that system asks and it is sure about versus the question that it is guessing it.
Right.
And second thing is the blast radius. How bad things can go, and is there any way that we can undo it? And look, in my opinion, autonomy is all about confidence and reversibility, and not intelligence. And to be very precise, it is like nobody wants to try out the self-driving function day one. They want to trust the cruise control first on the road that they move.
Right. So, out of everything a company could automate, it could be HR, supply chain, or customer service. Why does starting with data analytics makes the most sense?
Well, three reasons, and each of them built on each other. The first one is, of course, everything is a downstream. Let's just say a smart supply chain agent and a smart service agent talking to each other, that they are retrieving the information from the same well. And if the business cannot agree on the definition of what active customer means, you don't have an autonomous supply chain. You have an automated argument.
Right.
And two, this one is what most of the people miss. Analytics is the only place in the enterprise where being wrong is cheap and visible. a wrong number found on a dashboard in a Tuesday review gets amplified. A wrong number in a pricing engine caught by a customer or a regulator. You want your organization to understand the when AI fails, how does it feel like, you know, um, which cost you an awkward conversation over a headline.
Right.
And three is where the muscles get built, not the technical one, but the institutional one. Is basically deciding who owns the definition, what is good enough to act on, who signs off the data. And those are the really hard part of the autonomy. And it's not organizational, it's technical. Analytic is basically not a boring middle layer. It's like a flight simulator where you're trying to find out whether your company can trust the automated decisions at all.
But isn't that just a safe consultant answer? Everyone says starts with data.
That's a fair hit. And the reason it sounds like cliche because it is usually said badly. Start with data normally means 2-year platform program, migration and a steering committee. That's not what I am saying, because that's the approach people are cynical about it.
Right.
What I'm saying is you start with business metrics, build a metrics ontology, that is the necessary context for your AI agents to understand and to build semantic store.
So Ajay, without naming any names, can you actually tell us like how a normal week look like for a data team in a big company?
Let's say Monday is a triage. There is a queue, a shared inbox, a ticket board, and someone's DMs. The queue is full of requests which are urgent and important. Mostly they aren't. And more like, can you pull me these records by the region, or can you add this column, or this number looks off.
So just all queries.
Tuesday and Wednesday go the third one. The number looks off because there are two different systems answering slightly different questions, and someone has to then sit down and reconcile them by hand. Thursday, the pipeline breaks upstream silently because someone is looking at the chart which looks weird. And Friday, you're fixing it. You realize that you spent the whole week of highly paid, highly talented analytics team in the maintenance and lookup. And the thing underneath all of it is definitions. I have walked into the environment where 4 teams, each of them have defensible definition of some metrics. Well, internally they are all correct, but leadership meetings actually convert into a debate, talking about whose numbers are correct, whose metrics are correct, rather than talking about what they should be doing about it. And the business logic resides in the data model, in the data pipeline, in the reporting logic, in the metadata, mostly hardwired with a deterministic code designed by the database experts and not the domain experts. And that is where they are highly inadequate to answer all whys that you are looking for.
So that's a kind of confusion.
Most expensive recurring meeting in a large enterprise is where 6 smart people come together arguing about whose numbers are right. No one has these line item on their budget, and yet everyone has to pay for it.
What do you think is the biggest wrong belief leaders have about their own data team?
That it's a tooling problem. Every 3 to 4 years, you migrate to a better analytic tool. Everybody genuinely believes that it will fix all their problems. The dashboard gets prettier. The queue survives every transition untouched because the queue is not caused by the tooling problems. The second misconception is about the dashboard sprawl. People think dashboard sprawl is a sign of maturity. It is exactly opposite. If nobody can retire a dashboard, it is because nobody knows who's the end user, who depends on it, and that's the same governance gap, wearing a different costume.
So, Jay, what do you think, according to you, is the real fix look like? Not the buzzwords, but the real steps.
Well, three layers, and the order is whole thing. The first one is the governed semantic layer, and let me say this in simple English because it's a horrible phrase. In plain terms, what it means is one agreed definition per metric written down with a named human who's going to use it. Version control like a code so that you can find out who changed it and when. That's it. It's not a product you buy. It's a decision you stop avoiding. Layer 2, which is the engineering layer, which hands off the work to standardized work to the AI agents. Data pipelines are moving from deterministic code-based maintenance to AI agents-driven orchestrations. Agent automatically handles the schema drift, the broken transformation jobs, or even creating the query based on the performance history, or do a quality checks by automatically reconciling the data. Data organizations, open table formats like zero ETL, Apache Iceberg, or Delta Lake, or even unstructured data, which is stored in vector, graph databases, or even multimodal models, which is directly wired with the query engines to extract the data, and is actually changing the market towards zero ETL. So that the data resides in the object store, while the federated query engine actually does make the complete pipeline job redundant, and the drift is managed through the self-healing. Layer 3 is the one that makes it safe, and it is called confidence routing. It is the state at which you have a high confidence, you are sure about. It is more like high confidence and well-written question should straight away go to the person who asked. Anything where things are ambiguous, anything which is novel, anything where the definition of the definition conflicts should go to the human, followed with a reasoning attached.
That makes sense.
And that's your threshold. That's your threshold for dial. And basically, as you move up the maturity, you gradually increase it. You gradually move towards as the evidence comes in. Governance used to be the function that slowed everyone down, but it's the exact opposite in the agentic world, where you are allowed to go fast, because it's the thing that lets you take your hands off the wheel without closing your eyes.
So, how long before a team actually feels a difference?
Well, faster than people expect on the queue, weeks, because repetitive requests are easy to get routed, but slower than people who want definitions. It is like this. It's like 4 people in a room arguing about the definition of the metrics, and that is the real project. Technology is the easy part of it. Why do we need dashboards? They are static and hardwired. The next wave would be conversational query. It is going to redefine the passive visualization to something which is more agile, which is talk to the data. The agentic solution will unlock the capabilities of autonomous anomaly detection and causal reasoning. Machine learning models within the data platform will not only alert when the KPI drops, but the causal reasoning models will run the root cause investigations across the thousands of thousands of dimensions simultaneously to pinpoint exactly the reason why it dropped. The real-time streaming systems like Kafka or Flink are directly wired into LLM inference agents. So when the anomaly occurs, these agents will synthesize the surrounding contextual data and invoke the API endpoint to take a remedial actions or run a remedial workflows.
So now let's address one of the most important questions. If agents do more of the work, what's left for humans then?
Well, you know what? Every pipeline should end at the named human. And that's the design decision you make on the day one. It's a difference between the system people trust and the system people quietly work around. We are witnessing the end of massive data consumptions, where the human extract the data, cleans it, and create a visualization to draw conclusions, and entering an era of agentic and action-oriented data operations managed by autonomous agents. These agents will parse your data, identify the drivers, and propose and execute the next best action for you. The architecture is moving from the erstwhile ETL and data warehousing to ELT and lakehouse to now getting into a more semantic layer and data fabrics where the data is drawn directly from the data store at the consumption points.
Where's your hard line? Where do you say, no, a human owns this?
Well, 3 tests. Is it irreversible? Does it touch customer or a regulator data? Or does it being confidently wrong compounds? If any of this is true, the human has to own it, not review, own it. The question I ask my team isn't about can agent do this, but it is about if it goes wrong at 2 a.m., who finds it and how fast. And if we as a team are not ready to find the answer, which means that we are not ready to automate it, however the demo looked good.
How do you know an AI actually got something right, especially when our leaders is about to walk into a board meeting and act on it?
Well, firstly, you stop treating accuracy as a claim and start treating it like a test suite. At the foundation level, you set the business metrics ontology with a semantic layer. On top of it, a cognitive layer which has all the complex business rules and interactive querying engine to generate insights. And they will provide you a lineage and explainability which derives the whys and hows of it. The scariest failure in AI analytics is not a crash. It's just the fluent and confident wrong answers, because there are no error messages. They're just plain wrong answers. Nothing is broken, but just beautifully formatted.
That's like a disaster. So how does something earn a right to run on its own?
Well, it graduates. Every capability starts in a suggest mode where it proposes and human decides. Now, over a defined period, if it holds the accuracy, then it moves into a draft mode, which is where it produces and the human approves, right? And only then it does move into act, which is again bounded with a proper definition and a named person for as an approver or as an owner of it. Autonomy gets earned by evidence, never granted by degree.
So if a leader listening this wants to start this tomorrow, what's that one thing you would ask them to do first?
Pick the metrics which is argued by your executives the most, not the biggest one, not the strategic one, the one which is argued the most. And that's a free diagnostic for you, because that is where you will exactly know where the ambiguity is. Then do 4 things to it. In the next 60 days, agree on one definition, name the owner, create the test set, and only then you automate it to see how it can get produced. There you are, you will have your miniature version of the capability that your enterprise will need, and based on that, now you have the evidence, not just the business case, to expand it at the enterprise level.
And what's the mistake like you see the most?
Well, two. First one is jumping to act without building the foundation layer, right? Because the demo was seductive. And the second is more quieter and more common. That is, nobody measures what was before. Like time to query, the depth of queue, the measurement of improvement or the return on investments that you get. So most of the times, 6 months later, the improvement will still yield results, but unprovable, and the funding dies. Agent amplifies whatever foundation you provide. If your definitions are a mess, it doesn't fix them. It will make you go wrong much faster and at a greater scale.
So Ajay, I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
So 3 years from now, what does the data team even look like?
Well, data engineers will become product builders with two distinct functions. One is the democratization of data, and the other is monetization of insights. And both these functions will be the biggest differentiator for the enterprises.
Cool. And like one word for enterprise of the future?
Verifiable.
The question you wish more executives would have asked you, but they never do.
Well, they ask, what can AI do for us? I wish they would have asked what would have to be true for us to trust it. You know what? It's the same project, but you get a much better answer for the second.
So Ajay, this was great, and thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me here, Devanshu.
Thank you. So that's episode 1. If you're sitting on a metric your leadership team argues about, that's your starting line. Next episode, we move one layer out. So see you then.